Next, we're going to talk about how some genes don't follow the law of independent assortment, or rather, lots of genes don't, because they are on the same chromosome. So for example, this is an image of a fruit fly chromosome, one of the fruit fly chromosomes. And genes that are on the same chromosome tend to end up having alleles that are paired. So for example, for wing length here, if this fly has long wings and also has a short body, then the offspring are likely to inherit these alleles together rather than randomly, because of course they are physically attached on the chromosome. So really any two genes on the same chromosome are considered to be linked and are likely to be co-inherited because they are again on that same DNA helix. The thing here that can separate allele pairs is, of course, crossing over. So this doesn't occur in all organisms, it does occur in humans, and in addition, it is less likely to occur in the instance of two genes being pretty close together. So wing length and the leg length, those two alleles might be inherited together oftentimes, but there's a better chance that a crossing over event or chiasma will form between wing length and body color, for example, because they're farther apart. And so you might expect that these have a lower likelihood of being co-inherited. And again, we're talking about the alleles being co-inherited. Of course, the offspring is going to have some allele for wing length and some allele for body color. We're just asking whether those are going to come from the same physical chromosome on the parent. So how does this play out? Well, again, we have chromosomes that carry lots of genes. And so whatever genes are on the chromosome are likely to have alleles that are going to be linked. And sometimes this can occur randomly, and just by random coincidence, you're going to have these alleles be inherited together. So for example, we have this fly, which has the long antennae, the long wings, long legs, a gray body, and red eyes. So this is a pretty typical fruit fly. And then this other fruit fly has recessive alleles, pretty much short. For the first two alleles, it has our first three alleles, a black body and brown eyes. And so the offspring of these, if these two flies mated, are likely to get an allele from fly one, or a chromosome from fly one, with all these alleles together, and from fly two with all these alleles together. And so to sum that up, again, the offspring are likely to carry the same combinations as the parents. So individuals with the long aristae or antennae will also have long wings and long legs and a gray body and red eyes. So what does this mean for us? Well, an example of this is in tomatoes. And if you go to the store in the past few years, you'll find that there are what's called ugly tomatoes, or sometimes they're called heirloom tomatoes, and these look really funky. The reason why we buy these is because they are sweeter than your more traditionally red, round tomatoes. And that is actually because we, as a society, accidentally started breeding tomatoes that had less sugar production. And how did we do that? Well, it happens that sugar production and the color of the tomato are on the same chromosome. So they're on that same piece of DNA. And so when farmers were choosing the reddest tomatoes, it just so happened by coincidence that this chromosome also carried the allele for low sugar production instead of high sugar production. It could have been opposite, but that's not how it was. For some reason, these two were on the same physical chromosome instead of, for example, red tomato color and high sugar production. So we had this physical linking of these two alleles, and so once we started choosing the redder tomatoes, then we started getting less sweet tomatoes. And you can go to the store and you can do a test, and this is definitely true. Now, this doesn't always need to be the case, right? We could have crossing over occur, which could separate these two things. But in a lot of the commercially produced tomatoes, that didn't.